Hello everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to make a podcast using different audio files, as well as how to edit those files so that you have the cleanest sounding audio. The first thing that we're going to do is we went to File and New and we opened up a new audio file. So now that you have this open audio space, I would consider looking at a outline of what you're supposed to be doing with the audio. So in my group, we have a fabulous Google Docs. And in our Google Docs, we have maybe some production notes or maybe some recording editing notes. So I try to open up those. And on here, it has some kind of structure for the outline. So we have that we want to have an intro with music, intro commentary, and then that we have commentary as outlined, and then the outro commentary as well as the outro music. So when I recorded each member of my group separately, and I saved their audio files by their name. Since I'm the producer this week, I'm going to go ahead and open up the audio file. So mine was Rachel commentary. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on it and I'm going to say Command A, which is select all. And then I'm going to say Command C. And then I'm going to click in this new window and say Command V. And basically what I've done is I brought all my audio in to find the intro part. So one thing I was doing was taking some notes as to when different sections were. So for example, right here, I know that this is the outro section. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click right here and I'm going to hold down until everything is selected, and then I'm going to click and go copy paste. So now I know that this is my outro commentary. And you could also have recorded it like this. It just sort of depends on how you want to record. I was trying to keep the number of open windows down while I was recording, since there were a couple people using my laptop. And then I was just going to parse things together at a later date. So that's what I'm doing right now. This is the outro commentary. So now that that's saved, I can, since this is already selected, this specific bit, I can delete this from my longer running one, and it's going to just shorten that clip down so that I know that the outro commentary is no longer in that. So let's go back and do the intro commentary. So we know that this is specifically the intro. So we're going to go again and select that. I just clicked on the track and now I'm just pulling it all the way to the beginning. And now we have the beginning, and I'm going to do again Command C for copy, and I'm going to open a new track, Command V for paste, and I'm going to save this as the intro commentary. So now we have the intro and outro commentary. We can close this down while it's not in use, and I can click back into this window and say delete. And now I know that this middle section must be my commentary. And this is the part that I know has some of the most editing. So I'm going to take a moment just to kind of edit that through. So I kind of had like a little step, like a misstep here. So we're going to go in and we're going to specifically listen to this. And what I like to do is highlight it. And then for myself, the shortcut key is the spacebar. So I'm going to kind of zoom in on this track. The zoom button is right over here, so you can click that. And what we're going to kind of do is listen for that plantations part, right? And it goes pretty quick. So I'm actually going to maybe scroll it down just a little bit. So we know it's in this section right here. So I'm going to take that. So then maybe it will be this whole SoundCloud. So then let's go look at what this is. So then we know that this is where I messed up. So what we're going to do is, you see how this sound wave is very similar to this sound wave? It means that when we cut this to edit that little stutter out, we're going to look to try to make them as even as possible. So what we're going to do is just delete this, and then we're going to see how it sounds. And I like to click a good second or so above. Of songs and dance within the plantations. So we can see that it sounds better, but because there's still all these little sound waves, it has a little bit of a skip to it. So what I would suggest is if you look in that sound wave and you kind of open it up a little bit, you'll see that there's a lot of little kind of squiggly sounds. And I would go into here, and this is kind of where I pause and stutter a little bit. And I'm going to just try to grab as clean of a line within that as possible. And I'm going to try to make use of this silent line right here. So I want to delete that out, and then we're going to see how it sounds. So again, that's around the 32-second mark. So I'm going to come back over to just at about almost 31.5 seconds. And you now can't really even hear that stutter moment. So we're going to listen again. Use of songs and dance within the plantations. And now it's gone. So we're going to do things like that for the rest of the clip. So then that's a pretty long pause. You can kind of see that there's a little bit of sound wave there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of cut all of the little sound waves out. And that should make a much cleaner pause. So that I can already tell I'm probably going to do again. So we spoke last week, which we can see right there with that pause. So now I just need to go into this sound wave and look for when I'm specifically saying "as we spoke last week." It has many similar ideas as we. And it looks like this might be where it is. Yeah. So what I'm going to do again, I'm going to take all of those sound waves and copy and delete. And I'm going to go make a new one and copy it in just in case. And then I'm going to go back to that one that we were working in, and we're going to listen to it. Brolowski has many similar ideas. As we spoke last week to the complexity of his work. So it looks like I was stumbling over my words a little bit, so I made sure to give myself a lot of pauses. So what I would recommend is something like that is just taking out those long pauses. Now it looks like I had a couple sound waves here and there, but there is a little bit of a flat wave before I start speaking. So what you're going to want to do is, you see these little pieces of wave right here, just go ahead and try to look at where they end and then just kind of highlight just past them, so that when you are deleting it, it kind of just creates this one long pause. So let's go back and see how it listens. He has many similar ideas as we spoke last week. So that actually sounds pretty good. So then we're going to do the same idea right here, just really taking that long pause out, but giving just enough space so that the listener can have a little bit of a breath while I am taking a breath. And we're just going to keep doing that and listen to the whole bit. So one thing is, you can actually see me take this breath here. So we're just going to delete that out. And what I did with that, just so you can kind of see, is again, we're looking for the sound waves to match up. So we have a little bit of this beautiful straight line here, and we have a little bit of straight line here. So I'm going to take the majority of that straight line out, and then I'm going to go back in again and do it again. And we're going to go back and listen to the clip and see how it sounds. You can kind of see, you'll get in this pattern where you can tell where the breaths are. So those are when I'm taking breaths, so I'm just already going to delete them out. And what we can do if we feel like these are still not enough space is we're going to take these straight line bits and we're going to go Command C and we're going to add them back in. So we're going to listen.
Brooklyn is defaced with memories.
So this sounds like it needs a little bit more space.
Brooklyn is defaced with memories, where the whites displaced the Jews.
So that definitely sounds a lot better. We can go in here and kind of take that little bitty sound wave out, and we're going to see how this transitions.
Jews. One is cow toe.
So that's a little bit of an odd pause, so we're just going to delete that real quick. And it was really easy, right? Because we were just lining up those sound waves to be the same. Since it was a flat line, you just have to delete a little bit of that flat line out and see how it sounds.
Cow toeing at its edges.
And we can kind of hear this is just a breath noise, so we're going to delete it. And then we're just going to add some of that silence back in.
Edges. B-Rock Boy King with a bad A.
And we can see that this is kind of a messy breath. So we're going to do, and we can kind of zoom in for this, is we're going to go from here and we're going to look for just a little bit of that straight line right there and delete and see how that sounds.
Bad A? Was that?
And we'll put a little bit of that silence back in just so it still has that reading tone.
Bad A? Was that all I could think to say of daffodils?
So what we know is that that is me reading the poem. So we see a little bit of this sound wave right here. So we're going to cut that out. So how much space you think deserves to be there between someone reading the end of a line and then saying something is up to you. I'm going to have this much space and go back and see how it sounds.
Of daffodils? Thus, both artists are speaking from...
So I think that that's a good amount of space, so I'm going to go back and play.
Thus, both artists are speaking from similar histories.
So that was a pretty long breath. So again, we're matching up those sound waves. You can see it's a flat line here, it's a flat line there, and delete. And then see if that is a good amount of space.
Are speaking from similar histories while deploying physically.
So that's going to be a really long pause. Again, we're going to take a lot of this sound wave out. And what I would do is I would see what that sound wave is. And that's just a noise. So we'll just take right out and go back.
Physically while deploying physicality through interpretive modes.
So let's go back and hear that whole thing now that we've edited a little bit.
Similar histories while deploying physically while deploying physicality.
So we have kind of a little moment there where I repeated myself to give myself a better line. So let's listen.
While deploying physically while.
So we know that this is the incorrect one because we have those space to give us a guide. And if you look at that, you see how similar those sound waves are. You'll start to notice if you're looking for a specific piece that someone's redoing, just look for similar sound waves. So I'm going to delete this and it's going to pull that forward. And I'm just going to delete a little bit more of this so it has more of a flow to it.
Histories while deploying physicality through interpretive modes.
So I kind of see right here, there's a little bit of kind of like an odd pause going on. So we zoom in and we can kind of see right there that there's some noise there. So what I'm going to do is highlight it again, push spacebar to see what it sounds like. it kind of just sounds like I'm making some mouth noises. I'm kind of curious what this sound wave is. So let's see this whole sound wave and see if that beginning part is important.
Through in.
So let's see if this big one is where the through.
Through in.
So you see how that sounds is basically exactly the same. So what we're going to do is go in here and grab this and just keep pulling it right to here. So we went from straight part to as straight part as possible, and we're going to hit delete, and I'm going to zoom out, and you can kind of see that that is a pretty tight space. So this might be a time where we want that space in again, and since that was the last thing I copied, it's right there, so we're going to listen.
Through interpretive mode.
So that sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Now we know that this is the total finished Rachel's commentary. So now we want to start making the beginning. What I would do is I would bring in first the first part of the commentary that goes at the beginning. We already copied and pasted that, so we're just going to do that right there. We're going to add in another stereo track because I know that my fade in is actually in stereo. We're going to Command A and Command C, so select all and then copy. And we're going to come back over here. We're going to make sure that our little cursor is at the very edge, and we're going to Command V. Now, when I look at last week's book club in the final, you can actually see that I had this beautiful kind of just silence, and it looks like we didn't start bringing the commentary in until nearly 10 seconds had passed. We're going to go in here and we're going to find a nice pause, and we're just going to create that pause. So it's almost about 10 seconds. We're going to go back into here and see it's just over 10 seconds. And this is really, really close to 11. So we're actually going to cut a little bit of this out so it has that fade again. So to summarize, what we did is we brought in a mono track of the intro, and then we went to the tracks, we added a new track, did a stereo track, and then going from within this track, we grabbed a little bit of silence to add in some space at the beginning so we could create that beautiful fade. So now we want to bring in the reading of that poem. So what I think we should do is we're going to bring in that one. So we're going to find the reading, and we're going to click on it, and we're going to say Command A and Command C, or select all if you're on a PC. And now it's copied, and we're going to bring the cursor just right in here and paste, and we're going to listen.